that's going to be what we're just going to make our way through. And my plans are just to go verse by verse. James really lends itself to a very specific and approach like that, where you sort of look at each word. The proverbial nature of James lends it to that. Just like if you read Proverbs, you have just one verse, has a lot to unpack out of it. James is the same way. Remember in our review last week, James is laying before us the wisdom of Jesus, the wisdom of his brother who became his Lord. And so James is thinking about Proverbs. He's thinking about Jesus' teaching, especially the Sermon on the Mount. And so you'll see a lot of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount instruction. And then he's weaving all that together, especially to give us the right perspective. And this is what we'll look at in these first two verses. Wisdom is really on display when things are difficult. That's where you see wisdom. That's where you see the difference between the wise man and the fool. And that really is the two ways. A lot of times you'll see in the Old Testament and then in what Jesus teaches, there's two paths. There's a narrow path and a wide path. And those paths, what characterizes the narrow path and the wide path?
Low traffic.
Okay.
Drifting to sin.
Say again?
The drifting to sin.
That's right. So wide, you can have lots of company, right? It's also what characterizes the wide. You said
sin.
And why is sin associated with a path that's wide, or this particular path?
The easy way to go.
It's easy, right? Plenty of room.
You get to do
Goes
what
downhill. Say
you
again.
do what you want to
You get to do what you want to do. Everybody's walking alongside saying, see, it's fine. And then what characterizes the narrow? It's narrow. It's not many people are on it.
The holiness of it.
It's a holy way.
Obedience.
It requires obedience. It's hard. It's hard. The fool likes the easy thing, and the wise man is attracted to the hard thing. And there you go. That usually is the battle that we're fighting every day, is the battle between the path of least resistance, the thing I already wanted to do anyway, the thing that gets me what I want, the thing that doesn't cause me any trouble or difficulty, and a whole different way of living. So James is giving us the wisdom of Jesus. And we learned last week, wisdom is knowledge applied. Wisdom is skilled living. I've had the privilege and pleasure in my life, mostly, I think a lot of it because I've been in ministry, but I've been very privileged to be around wise people who are skilled in living. Isn't it fun to be around someone who, when things are wobbly, you're like, well, what's he doing? Whatever he's doing is probably going to get me headed in the right direction. And
I find it's usually embarrassing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so James wants us to be these Christians that you could drop in anywhere. I think we touched on that. We're sort of you want to ultimately be a special forces type Christian that you are in possession of all of the things that you're going to need to do whatever it is that God wants you to do, and you're ready to roll. No matter what the circumstances are. But like you understand about special forces, there's a lot of training. Nobody's naturally born into that kind of disposition. They've got to be trained. What's the training of Navy SEALs, for instance, known for?
Got a high washout rate.
That's right. A few find it, right? And it's almost that way on purpose. We're going to separate the men from the boys. Bubba Sawyer told me that when he played for the Bear, they'd get to a certain point early on as they were preparing for a new season, and he'd say, now it's time to find out about everyone's pedigree. And everybody knew what that meant. It's fixing to get real around here. We're gonna find out who wants to do this and who doesn't. Who wants to play like a champion and who doesn't. And you can find those out. So wisdom does that. Yes, sir.
Only because it's interesting. Vince Booth went to Alabama, played football. Nobody knew him. And one day he's walking out the tunnel for practice one more time, and he heard the bear. Vince, you want to play football? He said, yes, sir. He said, we're going to find out today.
Yeah, we're gonna find out today.
And they
Right.
did find out.
Right? And that's what God already knows about you, that he would like you to find out about yourself. And that's not a self-help deal. That's a statement about how God feels about you and loves you. And even as we raised the issue of great coaches like Bear Bryant, what they would say when you peeled them back is that they loved their players. And they wanted the players to really love one another, but the greatest gift you can give to one another is your best. And that everybody knows everybody's out there doing that. So anyway, to have and again, James is going to call it joy, the joy of coming to know that God is going to make sure that you have everything you need to do everything he wants you to do. That's a good thing. So wisdom in the midst of difficulty. There really isn't, you're not wise until you've been through difficulty. That's just the truth. You're just a theoretician. What the child psychologist say? He said I had no children and 3 theories, and then I had 3 children and no theories about child raising, right? We want to, until you've gone through the storm, you don't really know. And of course, you know that as you minister to people or as people have ministered to you. When you're going through something hard and someone who's been through it comes up to you and gives you a word of encouragement, that's different from somebody who's like, praying for her, but they haven't walked through what you've been through. And when you walk through something hard, Corey, his family has walked through something, loss of a child. And when somebody says, I know what you're going through, but they never lost a child, do they know what you're going through? No, they do not, okay? So, and no one would ask to go through that kind of fire, but the refiner brought you through, and you have some things to share. You have some gold that you can share with others as a result. And so, the way James kicks off is that he wants to consider it joy. He wants to have us to have a considered joy. Oh, and one more tidbit before we jump into this. Our English name is James. Does anyone know what James's real given name was? Jacob. All right. James is sort of an odd Anglicization, but his name was Jacob. So whatever that's worth to you, James's real name is Jacob. What?
Jimmy.
Yeah, Jimmy or Jimmy, right?
It begins just saying that he's a bondservant, which is important of God. If I'd have been the brother of Jesus, I must be sticking that in there.
Amen. And we may get to grab time this morning because we're just going to make our way through. Another theme, and this is wrapped up in hardship, is poverty. James is going to warn us about the danger of wealth, and he'll repeat it and repeat. Remember, James moves in circles, not in straight lines, and so he'll repeat this all the way through, the danger of wealth. Now, this is back to that wide road, narrow road, and a poverty of spirit. And see, that brings us really back to James learned that from his brother. Blessed are the poor in spirit. In fact, that's where the Beatitudes begin. Is the poverty of spirit, which is typically, when we use the word blessing, we don't think poverty is the next word that comes behind it, but in Jesus' kingdom, which is the reverse of the worldly kingdom, it's actually poverty that is a great value and is to be regarded as a state of blessedness, because poverty teaches us some things. In fact, it's what James will say. There's going to be a test of poverty, but we'll get to that. So James has a good understanding of who he is. And this is the same word that Paul liked to use, a doulos. Not just a slave, a bond slave. What do you know about, why is it translated here, a bond servant or a bond slave?
Out of choice.
Yeah, the bottom. If you were a slave, you were already on the bottom. But if you're a doulos, a bond slave, you're at the bottom of the bottom. No will of your own, no property of your own, no rights. You were, the summer after my first year of college, I worked for a contractor in the Conoco plant at Lake Charles. And I was low on the totem pole, all right? And I got a hard hat and I got a button from a hard hat. It was 086. And I was shuffling along early in my process there. I had my hard hat on with 086 on the side of it, and I walked past a backhoe that said 087. 086. I was just a piece of equipment, right? A specialized backhoe, you know. But that's really, and you know, there are moments when you recognize that you're not the high man on the totem pole, and that's in our human nature, that's a funny feeling because we tend to want to regard ourselves highly. But James had come to learn the value of recognizing that he was a bond servant, and he was thrilled with that assignment. And that's where wisdom begins, with a recognition of my poverty. The wise person says, I don't know. That's where wisdom begins. I don't know, but God does. So we have the launch pad here, these first couple of verses. And I shared with you last week, the chapter 1 of James introduces us to all of the themes of James. So it's good to kind of master this. And the first few verses of his teaching really are the headstone of the entire book. So I'll read them. And I actually brought along my little Greek New Testament. We'll look at some of the words here. If any of y'all want to read or use my Greek New Testament, you can. And we'll maybe benefit from the other gift of James, because it's proverbial. His proverbs are written so that each word is significant. Every word of the Bible is significant. But you get my point. In a proverb, it's all smashed down, and so James's word choice is particularly meaningful. And we'll look at some of these Greek words that he chooses. So the first 3 verses, I'll read them, and you tell me what kind of jumps out to you. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various. Who is that making a noise?
Some reverb.
A little reverb or something. Consider it all joy, my brothers, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its perfect result, so that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. All right, what jumps out to you? This is the introduction, really, to the whole book. What jumps out to
Those
you?
opposites, joy and then trial.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have this. James leads with a pretty hard punch that some things that we typically do not associate are matched pairs in kingdom thinking. All right? Yes, sir.
I learned a few years ago that God doesn't give us trials or tests so that he can understand what we're made of. He gives it to us so we can understand what we are made of, because he already knows the answer.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And what is it? Socrates said, "Know thyself." That was one of his things he was known as. It was sort of a deep declaration of wisdom. But that's a good. It's good. You ever found out something about yourself that you didn't know about yourself?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes you find something bad about yourself, right? You discover anyway. It's a terrible thing, but it's also good. It's good to know, because if you know it, then what? You can do something about it, right? You can do something about it. And so is it good or bad that you find out something bad about yourself? It's good and bad,
You
right?
can't solve a problem if you don't know about it.
That's right. That's right. And so God is going to, what Sam is saying is God is doing this good thing to us. I'm going to help you discover what I know about you, good and bad, so that you can move from being a baby to being a grown-up. All right, so what else do you see there?
It's like an athlete, you're building strength
Yeah.
the more you're tested.
That's right. That's right. There's a process we enter into so that we can grow up, and it's good. Jake and I were talking. You know, Jake graduates from South on Friday.
Wow.
So we appreciate your prayers for him. Across the years, he'll have a degree in accounting. Jake's the philosopher of our family, and so he's a man of few words, but when he decides it's time to talk, usually he wants to talk about 10 p.m. is when he wants to have a chat. So, we were sort of talking about things like this, and I said to him, something occurred to me recently. You know what's worse than having a lot of problems? Having none. And Jake he had read about this experiment they did with rats, and they put them in this little rat society where all the rats had everything they needed, all the food, all the water. There were no enemies. There were no odd smells that would come that would make them think there was a cat around or anything. Just a utopia. He said and it was a longitudinal. And so at first, the rats multiplied like crazy, kind of doubled in size. But after a generation, they shrunk. And then I think in maybe 3 or 4 more generations, they died out. They just quit reproducing. And one of the conclusions was there was nothing to do. There were no problems to solve. There were no challenges to explore. And even the rats knew there wasn't any reason to get up in the morning.
That's a bad feeling.
It's a bad feeling. And here's what you know, men. The only thing that's worse than I think that's the challenge often of retirement is what you do all day is one of the things you're doing all day is you're solving problems all day long, and then suddenly the lie of retirement is good news, men. You no more problems. Well, that's fun for 2 weeks. But what you guys know is you still need problems to solve. That's when retirement's great. Is you just get a new set of things to work on, so that those years can be powerful and productive. But you get my point. So these are good things. All right. So consider it all joy. What else do you see in these first 3 verses? Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, it's all a test.
Yeah.
You gotta pass.
All. In fact, the word all is pas, and it's really the first word of the sentence. It's really it begins all joy. Pasan, which is it's interesting in English. It's consider it all. All is further down. But what do you think is significant about the fact that when James wrote it, he started with the word all? Because that's what our other James back here noticed.
What's the significance of the word all?
Of the word all, and that it's the first word of the sentence.
It doesn't leave anything out.
Yeah, here's the discipline. Everything that happens to you is to be concluded as a joyous gift from a God who's seeking to accomplish his work in you.
If it didn't say all, that means there'll be a situation
That's
you
right.
can't do anything about, and you're in a mess and you're lost.
And how many times have you said, when something happened that you didn't like, something bad? Oh, well, this is the thing that's not a part of God's will for my life. This is the thing that God, this one slipped in on him. God wasn't paying attention, and this one got away from him. Nothing good, and these are the, well, nothing good can come from this. It's not fair. This is the reason why I can bow out. This is the reason why I can just pull the covers over my head and quit, because nothing good can come from this. And I have felt that way. We've all felt that way. But the wise person knows how to choose joy. And men, if there's anything you can take away from James, that joy is a choice. The word here is consider. Consider it all joy. That means all the things that happen, the wise man is able to examine and freshly discover that it's a source of joy. Yes,
I
sir.
think all the writers of the New Testament had the same mindset. Like Paul
That's right.
said it the best. I find contentment in all things, if I'm poor or rich or whatever. Just find contentment.
That's right. Well, we'll hit some of these, but I'll catch
Gary
that.
Flowers, Wednesday night, did a good job, but he mentioned a book that is this subject. And it is about how to find joy and trust God in the most difficult of circumstances.
Yeah.
I hadn't mastered it yet.
Right, right.
I'm reading about
We
it.
all
Yeah,
have.
yeah. Finding joy in all circumstances. Yeah, Steve.
Read somewhere that God has made us, that we cannot be grateful and thankful and down at the same time.
Amen.
If we're concentrating on being grateful in every situation and thankful find it for any kind of thankfulness,
Yeah.
that we can't have that and the depression at the same time.
That's right. And it's what's the old ad? Worry or worship. But you can't do both of those at the same time. Yeah.
You know, what Steve said, here's my problem. If I lose Sheila, I'm gonna have a hard time
Yeah.
trusting God with that. And I know some people in here have been through that.
Yeah.
So I'm-
Yeah, and I think that and James will tease this out for us. It does. This is not Pollyanna. This is not, oh, my the love of my life passed away. Yippee! That is, no one would think that would be normal or appropriate. Grief is the price of love. That's what I always teach when I show up when somebody's lost a loved one. That's a big part of my life. Is I show up when somebody's walking through grief, and I don't say, "Consider all joy, brother." You know, I say to them, grief is the cost of love. Grief is the price of love. You want to avoid grief? Just don't love anybody. And so, and surely our griefs and sorrows he bore, right? Jesus was a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He wept over Jerusalem. Okay, so remember, happy. Happy is this, my circumstances are what I want. Joy is, I know my Savior lives. I know my Redeemer lives. I don't know what's going on, but I know that he knows. And that's more than enough. Yeah, Corey.
Oh, it's funny, you caught me like thinking and wanting to say something. No, but that is I think that is really where the world is today is it's all about happiness and it's self-centered and it's all about, just what I want now and what's gonna make me feel, and they get that confused with joy, exactly what you said, because, to that point, like, joy doesn't necessarily mean happy. Joy doesn't necessarily mean you can't be upset. But as you go through it, you find something good, and because you know that God cannot give you more than you can.
There you go. And so let me marry joy and consider, all right? Because this is the discipline that James wants to teach us as we launch out here. Consider, because I did a little study, is a very interesting word. Greek is sometimes challenging to pronounce. Hegesaste. Hegesaste is the word for consider. It's not used very frequently this way. Most of the time, when hegesaste is used, it means to lead. It appears a lot in the Gospels and in Acts, in which there's a narrative action going on and someone is leading the way. On a few rare occasions, though, it has the secondary meaning of that the best way to understand why Greek is so great is it can do things that English can't do. One word does a lot of things. It can mean the reasoned conclusion that a qualified leader makes about something. When a judge decides, and there's a verdict. When a doctor has looked through all of the data and drawn a conclusion and says, this is what it is and this is what we're doing. It has an authoritative and a commitment to it. It's not just I realize that this football team's better than that football team. That's not what this word means. It means a conviction. That's the word. A conviction about something, and that is a conviction about the future, about a future state of circumstances. We're not there right now, but this is where we're going, and we've had to pick, A and B, and we are not going to do B, and we are going to do A. We've made the kind of decision that a general makes. It's the kind of decision that Dwight Eisenhower made. When there was a moment when they decided we're going to do the Normandy invasion. And it's what we're doing, and this is how we're going to do it. And when the day came, and y'all probably heard of those moments leading up, and he's writing letters to soldiers and encouraging them because he knows he's sending a lot of men to their deaths by their thousands. But it's go time. And so that's what this word means. The decision that a qualified leader will make out of experience and maturity and know-how and commitment. We're going all in. We're going all in. So we're going all in, and we're going all in on joy. That might be a good thing for you to think about for the rest of your life. I'm all in on joy. Is that what people think about you when they hang around you? That guy's all in on joy. Is that what they think?
Hope so.
I hope so. David says, I hope so. I hope so too. Sometimes I wonder. I think I'm all in on something else. All in on being aggravated. Steve.
And it's neat at the very end, it says, in all that, we will lack nothing.
That's right. So, and there's the gold, there's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Or the reward at the end of the challenge is you get to be perfect, lacking nothing. Well, I'm going to tell you guys, I hear that and I think, no, okay. That's not only what I like to see that in my life, but I think that's a life worthy of Jesus. I think Jesus, in fact, Paul says, I'm working so that I can present everyone perfect. That's what he says in Colossians. So, to be a finished work, to refer to my sermon from a couple of weeks ago, you can be a real live boy, not just a wooden puppet, but you can be really alive, fully complete. Yeah. How do you get there? Trials. All kinds of trials that you have faithfully decided are God's careful gifting activity towards you so that he can do the things in you that have to be done. And you're going to go ahead and declare that joy ahead of time. Yeah, Philip.
And when I read this, there's a dimension of time.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not guaranteed short or long. It's just a endurance endures time.
There you go. We're going to get to the word endurance in a second, but to what Corey was saying, happy is now. Okay? And I know that the happiness of pounding down a big greasy burger. That's a now thing. I think not to make a lot of Simpsons references, but one day Homer I think he's got a mayonnaise and he's pouring beer into it and drinking it. And Marge says, oh, I don't think that's too good of an idea. And he says, that's future Homer's problem. That's not a good way to think, but that's happy. In fact, I may even know that this thing is not good for me or good for the people around me, but it's making me happy now. Okay, and joy is, I've got my eyes on that good thing. I've got my eyes on that complete work that's in the future. And I've learned to choose it not now. And last week, or Thanksgiving week, I had my son and his wife and their 4-year-old and the 1-year-old were all at our house for a week. And you relearn what it's like when you're 4 and 1, that now, there's only now. And if it's not now, then I'm gonna have a fit. But that's understandable why, with a 4 and 1-year-old.
No concept of the future.
They're just little, right? They're babies, okay? We want to grow up, and so, yes, it has this future component to it. Yeah, James?
One of the parallels here with Paul talks a lot about being disciplined.
Yeah.
Discipline.
Yeah.
Beating the air, preparing yourself, running the race, staying in the struggle, looking for sanctification, transformation, renewal. And all of that comes into play here, getting ready for wisdom to arrive because of the knowledge you've acquired and been gifted from God.
That's right. I've had the experience of people who are struggling with Christianity, or they're upset about church, or they're thinking of bowing out, and the spirit is, well, it was just hard, and it's supposed to be easy. Wrong. Okay? It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. You need it to be hard. It's good. It's good. The hard is why it's good. The hard is why it's good. But big boys know that, and babies don't. And so James is going to be given to us so that we can learn how to be people who make a sound and reasoned judgment, and we're able to do that about hard circumstances when they arrive. That we have a bigger, more informed disposition towards difficulties when they show up, so that we can have something called joy. Charite is the word here, and it speaks of something that is untouched by circumstances. Yes, sir.
Peter talks about the very same thing. He says to rejoice, even though you're grieved by these trials. But the trials will not extinguish, nor do they consume the gold that remains from that, which the source of that joy is the revelation of Christ.
That's right. So there's this hope element. Joy has a hope element in it. I think you guys, as I found, this is easier for me to wrap my mind around as I get older, and so I know I'm sitting in a room full of guys who you know what I'm talking about. When I was just getting started, when you're young, you have a lot out in front of you. I was afraid a lot. There's this part of me that, like, man, I hope this works out, but and worried that you make the big mistake. Not even a mistake. You're trying to get through life, and you get to a cross or a fork in the road. What did Yogi Berra say? When you get to a fork in the road, take it. But this sense, I think it's here, but oh no, what if I get 3 miles down? I'm like, I should have done B, not A. Right? I felt the anxiousness of that earlier, but I had this growing conviction, and this I think is what James is talking about. Jesus can't be beat. Jesus cannot be beat. And what James wants us to get is that really becomes our conviction. I have been at the bedside of saints who are getting ready to go on to glory, who said it's a win-win. And they mean it. They mean it. Either way, for me to live as Christ and die as gain, it's really, Here's the good news. I know Jesus wins. I know it. I know. I don't know how he's going to win. And his victories are really don't often look like the world's victories, but Jesus cannot be stopped. He cannot be stopped. You are not going to lose. He is not going to let you go. He is not going to let you disappear into the maw of
Eternity.
the bad things that happen. Christ has overcome the world. He's overcome. That's what the resurrection means. And so we live as people who know that it's the deepest thing we know. Jesus can't be stopped. And his purposes for me can't be stopped. And that's good news. Yeah, Sam.
Whenever I see the word joy, I think about Revelation 21. We have the privilege to go read the end of the story. Perfect peace in the presence of Almighty God. No more pain, no more suffering. And when we focus on that, then the temporary things don't hurt so bad.
Right. Yeah. The way it's often put is we live in light of eternity, and we really do live. We live in light of eternity. Steve?
In Deuteronomy, when Moses kind of writes his swan song
Right.
at the end, when he's getting ready to go, he says, God is the God of the beautiful clouds above, but he is also the strong arm that holds us from below.
Yeah. So let's pause at this point. We'll just do this is a group question, group response. Is God mighty to save? Have you come to experience God as the one who's mighty to save in your life? And if somebody in here is struggling about the security of that, listen to your brothers. Okay? He's mighty to save. He has brought you through. He's brought me through. And he's done it. It's his job. He's good at it. And so that's, and when that begins to be our settled disposition, then a door to a new way of living opens, and that's the heart of wisdom. So consider all joy, my brethren, when you encounter an encounter. Let me see if I can find encounter here in my Greek. Pyrosmois. Pyrosmois peripasete. Peripasete. It's not really encounter. Encounter is not a good translation for encountering trials. The word really is to fall into or to fall among. It's the word that's used when the man in the Good Samaritan story falls among thieves. And that's really more how we experience trials as people of faith. We're just walking along and we get tackled by trials. Blindsided. That's the word I'm looking for. Anybody ever play football and get blindsided? Holy smokes.
Just living.
Man, I'm telling you, just living, we've been blindsided. But there's something, I played a lot of football and enjoyed it. And I like the contact. I just prefer to see it coming. And if I could sort of see it coming, I could do something about it. Brace yourself. Man, a couple of times. In fact, one time, we were covering a punt, and I was covering the punt, and then I was on the sidelines, and about 10, 12 seconds, it's just gone. But I'm on the sidelines, my helmet is sort of like that. My hand is ripped open. I can't feel the other arm. I'm not sure where I am. That's getting blindsided, That's what this is talking about. Getting nailed. Now, men, have you ever gotten blindsided like that? Whew. Breath's knocked out. Possessions are strewn all over the place. You've been blasted. Undone.
It's the one you never see.
The one you didn't see coming. Yes, sir.
Just a question, can anybody think of a trial where Christ wasn't sufficient?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, how do you argue endurance and trials and failures when you can't even justify a failure? There's no evidence of a failure.
Yeah, yeah, it's back to that little loop that Jake and I were talking about. The problem isn't your problem. The problem is you don't know Jesus. You know, when you have Jesus doesn't merely solve problems. He solves the problem that there are problems. You see that? Isn't that crazy? Because your problem is not your problem. Your problem is that there are problems. That's really what's going on. Why is the world like this?
Broken.
God, and here's the struggle of faith is God has made a mistake. Here's the thing, to Philip's point, I finally found the thing that Jesus is not the answer to. That's really what you're saying. That's a statement of faith, and you better have the receipts. I can understand an impulse to want to say that, but that's a pretty big statement. That's a claim of knowledge. I don't think you got the pay grade to make.
How'd that work out for the Israelites?
That's right. The Israelites complaining and missing the promised land. So this studied judgment through a habit and a history with Jesus, so that you can you begin to be the kind of person who can make an authoritative declaration when the thing comes. And here's the deal. Various trials, James doesn't mean, the kind of thing that you go through every day. And we want Jesus to help us in those ordinary things. But what he means is all the different kinds of ways you get your head knocked off. The loss of a spouse, the loss of a child, the death of a dream. We can list these things, and they really hurt. They really hurt us. And while we're laying there, trying to just get our wits about us, our instinct is a settled judgment. I am declaring joy over this. I'm declaring a belief that this is the kind of place where Jesus likes to show up. And I'm expecting him to do so. He always has in the past. And so I'm going to continue to expect him to do so. And I'm going to go ahead and start behaving like Jesus is here, instead of the way I typically behave when things don't go my way, which is to pitch a fit, whine, complain, blame others, give the people around me a hard time, etc., etc., etc. Because the flesh says when something bad happens to me, then I have my excuse to misbehave. No, this is an opportunity for me to behave, to follow and to trust Jesus.
Isn't this an opportunity for us as Baptists to demonstrate that assurance to those nominations who don't believe in eternal security? Aren't we as Baptists the last hope for that assurance and that faith? Isn't that the threat that we see from non-denoms, where we don't know what they think, and there's no way for them to have it unless they're told it, unless they read it and somebody will tell them that it is eternal and it is secure.
It does come down to that kind of decision. Brent was teaching the sex ed. They let us teach it in Baldwin County, and it is abstinence-based sex education, and it's always a battle. You got these group of people who don't like us doing that. And so Brent finishes, and there's some evaluation from some of the leaders at the school where he was, and one of the evaluations was, I'm not sure why we're continuing to teach the kids such archaic views. And it's just a reminder, fellas, that the world we live in and the people who are teaching our children think that it's a bad thing to teach children monogamy. Right. That's how vulnerable we all are to delusion, right? And if we don't make up our minds, that's what James is saying. My mind is already made up. And you all know this is what you try to teach your own children and your grandchildren. You're going to need to go ahead and make up your mind about some things now. Making up your mind when all hell is breaking loose, that's not when you need to make up your mind about Jesus. You need to have already made up your mind so that when the storm comes, you're already in the ark. Because it's not just for the rescue of your own soul, but it's for the rescue of those around you. And so people with studied conviction, but to add to that, it is a love of what is right and good. It's a love of the truth of God's word that has been forged in blood and someone who merely isn't spouting spiritual truths as theoretical knowledge to have a debate about, but lived. I've lived this. This is the way. Walk in it. Yes, sir.
One of the things that Charlie Kirk used to talk about for men, he said, go have an adventure.
Yeah.
The ones who sit on their fannies never discover what you just talked about. They hadn't been there, and they're not going there.
That's right.
Pushes them off the time.
It makes me think of Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena, you know? As opposed to those timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. They just sort of sat on the sidelines and missed life.
You guys told a story in one of your sermons about 2 years ago. Remember? A guy premiered to win the Olympics by shooting a pistol with his right hand.
Yeah.
When war broke out, the Olympics was over. He had his right hand severed. He came back home. His wife hears him down in the woods, hears a shot go off, and she runs down there thinking the worst. He's shooting with his left hand.
That's right. And wins with his left hand at the next Olympics. It's a decision. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and my life is over. Or maybe I'm just going to, go out on a limb here. Maybe something awesome's going to happen. And I don't know how many stories of Olympic shooters you know about, but you know that one, right? And that's that kind of way of living, that kind of wisdom is what James is talking about here. So to conclude, then the trials are various. The trials are various. It's another unique word. It doesn't appear very much at all, and it means multicolored. It's the same word for Joseph's coat. And the sense is kaleidoscopic. All of the different, not able to count how many different things there are. There's so much variety. And what James is saying here is it means no matter what form it comes in, and it's just going to come when trials show up. They come in an unimaginable myriad of combinations. And so, again, you can't be someone who says, that's the trial that God doesn't have a solution for. That's the one. It's the, and I heard a teacher teach a good thing to do sometimes is say, and then what, and then what, and then what. Because we'll start to say, well, and Dennis is well, I've had this very same thought about my wife. I'll say, gosh, if I lost Janet, I just don't think I could go on.
And then what?
And then what? And God wants to pull up a chair and say, Dennis, Eric, let's talk about that. Let's talk about whether or not it's true that under that circumstance, you just have to bow out. And then you get to have a chat. I think it's good because I don't know about you, but I tend to say, well, I could, in fact, now that I have grandchildren, I have done this and I get myself all wound up. I don't want anything bad to happen to grandchildren. I have to kill somebody, I don't want anything, I don't want anybody messing with those grandchildren.
Everything else is okay.
Is everything,
Mess with
y'all
it.
are on your own, but the grandchildren,
Especially little Eric.
yeah, especially little Eric, you know, but y'all know. And so I will say, man, if something happened to a grandchild, I don't know that I can make it. I don't know that I could endure it. And I'm serious. I mean, I feel that, you know, down inside me, especially someone hurt them on purpose. I don't know. Y'all gonna have to find me in the jail somewhere.
We'll go your bail.
Do what now?
We'll go your bail.
Yeah, I got you.
We'll come see you.
But thank you. But it's that very kind of thing that what I have to do is I have to already know that I can make a settled judgment to find joy, the joy in that. I don't mean, because I could never imagine even using the word joy for something like that, except all the testimonies of people who say, this nightmare happened and it brought me to the end of myself and it brought me to this crossroads. And y'all have heard me say this over and over again. Ultimately there's no other way to know if you believe in God just because he is.
But Christ.
And that it's brought you to a place where he's all you have. I don't know why you've done this, God. I don't know why you've let this happen to me. And it feels like a betrayal. I feel really let down. But I've made a studied decision to believe in advance.
That's Erica Kirk's story, I think.
There you go. There you go. That we believe, and how I'll land the plane, that the worst thing and the best thing are the same thing. That's the gospel. That the worst thing that ever happened and the best thing that ever happened are the same thing.
On the same day.
On the same day,
cross.
on the same cross. So if it's true of God and God's Son, there's no reason to believe that it isn't true of you. But none of us are gonna sign up or volunteer. That's why the various trials just show up. All right, so, man, James is going to give us a lot of good stuff for living in the real world. Let's talk real quick about things we need to be praying about.